So, as everyone knows, we're getting ever closer to the 2026 midterm elections. And with that, we got to really talk about what happens if Republicans not only overperform expectations, but what happens if they actually achieve their best case scenario, and what would that actually look like in the Senate? Now, to be clear, this is not an official prediction. This is not what I think is going to happen right now. I think as of now, yes, Democrats probably get a net gain in the Senate of a couple seats. They probably retake the House, not by the margins that some people are saying, but I think right now, yeah, you could say Democrats are favored to win the House of 26, couple Senate wins here and there, but we got to talk about what is the best case scenario for the GOP. And I'm not just saying Republicans win every seat. No, in a realistic scenario, what is the best case for the GOP? And I want to really look at that because there is a possibility, despite everything going on right now, that Republicans could actually win 26. Just look at the generic ballot polling right now. Yes, there's some polls that have Democrats at D plus 10, D plus 12, but a lot of them have the generic ballot within 2 to 3 points. And even the polls that have Democrats up by a big margin, it's not that Democrats are polling particularly well. It's just Republicans right now, they're not doing the best. And if you're the Democrat Party, that's a bit worrisome because that means a lot of these undecided voters, more than likely, they lean to the right. They're more conservative. They're not just old partisan Dems. That's a big issue for an obvious reason. How do you think these people are going to vote? Yeah, some of them may stay home, some of them might vote Democrat, but if these are majority Republican leaning voters, they're more conservative, do you think they're going to vote for Democrats everywhere? I don't think so. A lot of them, at the end of the day, they may not like the GOP, will still come home and vote Republican. Now, for Republicans to even have a chance at a best case scenario, they need three things to happen. There are other things as well, but it boils down to three main things. One, gas prices. You have to get gas prices down. It doesn't matter how you do it. Gas prices right now are way too high. And even if you get a lot of other things go your way in the next couple of months, if gas prices are still this high come October and November, it doesn't really matter. The average voter is going to say, fuck this. They stay home or even vote Democrat. You got to get gas prices under control. That is a big issue for a lot of people. And really, in 2022, Joe Biden proved that you can have gas prices as high as they were for months. But if you wait until the last millisecond to get gas prices even somewhat under control, people forget how high they were. That's the reality of American politics. Voters, they have short-term memories. Sorry to break it to people, but they do. So gas prices, they have to be low. They have to be lower at least. Come October, come November. And really, they should be consistently low for a couple months so people realize, okay, gas prices are actually down. Things are improving. Secondly, these competitive primaries on the Democrat side, they need to continue to happen, if not accelerate. And honestly, that's going to happen. Just look at what's going on in Michigan. That Senate primary is a disaster. No matter who wins the primary, they're in a really tough position. Look at Maine. It's a complete shit show. And so, yeah, they really have the second thing. No matter what happens the next couple months, it's fair to say that Democrats, they have a lot of division in their party, a lot of people getting primaried out, a lot of super competitive primaries on the Democrat side. And the third thing, actually use the money you have. You have like $1 billion just in your main groups, including Trump, MAGA Inc., including the Senate Republicans, House Republicans, the RNC. They have $1 trillion just sitting there. Democrats right now, they're broke. They can't fundraise at the same level Republicans can, and they're burning through so much money right now. Even before we get to August, before we get to Labor Day, they're burning through so much money. If Republicans do these three things, and of course other things as well, they actually have a chance. Of course, before we start the prediction, please note this is probability based. That means if it's safe Democrat or safe Republican, that means that candidate has a 90% chance of winning or above. Likely 75, 90%, lean 60, 75%, in tilt below 60%. You get the point. It's not margin based, but right now, in a best case scenario, at least in terms of a realistic best case scenario for the GOP, the safe Democrat states would be Oregon, Colorado, New Mexico, Virginia, Delaware, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts and Illinois. So, yeah, that's it. These are the only states in a best case scenario that you really can't dispute that are safe Democrat. Even Republicans run a perfect campaign. There might be one other state we can add here in a little bit. Listen, could Virginia get closer? Maybe. Could New Mexico get closer in a best case scenario? I guess. But guys, realistically, at some point, it becomes very difficult for Republicans to win a place like Virginia. Even in a good environment for them, it is just too Democrat. You can make the argument that, well, with what's happening in Virginia with Spanberger, with how much of a disaster it is, maybe it could get closer. I could see that maybe, but right now, I really don't see anything that points to Virginia being a state that Republicans could win, even in a best case scenario. And also Minnesota, forgot to mention that one. It could maybe get closer because that primary looks like a shit show and a half. Nobody wants to win the primary. It's a complete mess. We can also say the same thing for the Republican side. Not as bad, but that primary in Minnesota, it is looking horrific for Dems. But we are talking about Minnesota. This is a state that's not been Republican for a very long time, since the 70s. So I'm going to say, yeah, right now, it's probably safe Democrat in Minnesota. Now, as for the safe Republican states, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and you get the point, all these southern states, Kentucky, West Virginia, I would include Florida here, and Iowa. So, as you can tell, Republicans, even not in a best case scenario, they still have an advantage in the Senate for a clear reason. They have already a much higher floor than Democrats do. You can take away Iowa and Florida from the safe column. I'm not going to, but even in that scenario, Republicans start off with more safe states than Democrats do. And these remaining states, well, I hate to break it to Democrats, but it does not look good at all. Even in a normal scenario, just look at these states. Texas, Trump won by 15 points. Alaska, Trump plus 10. North Carolina, Trump plus 3. Ohio, Trump plus 10. Michigan, Trump plus 1. Like, this is a brutal map, not in a best case scenario. Like, this is a neutral year, a Democrat year. This is still a pretty bad map for Dems. But in a best case scenario, well, this goes from bad to worse. Let's start with Alaska. In a best case scenario, Republicans win easily. Maybe not by a safe probability, just for the simple fact that, yeah, Mary Patola, she's a very strong candidate. She was a congresswoman just 2 years ago. She's won there before, even in a more Republican environment. But guys, she lost as the incumbent, and she's going against Dan Sullivan, who he's not the best. He's just a generic Republican that's an incumbent. He has incumbency. He's been there for a while. Nobody really hates him in Alaska. So I think he's favored no matter what. But in a best case scenario, yeah, it's likely Republican. Texas, I know Paxton has issues. He has some weakness a little bit. It's overblown. But guys, here's the main issue for Democrats, no matter what happens. James Telrico, he has major issues with black voters. A lot of black voters have voted for Crockett in the primary. They're not voting for Paxton. They're just not voting. They're simply not voting whatsoever. And it's getting so bad. that James Tellerico's campaign, they're going to be forced to spend millions upon millions of dollars just to get black turnout even somewhat reasonable. And that's a huge issue in Texas. You need three things as a Democrat to go your way: run up with Hispanics, do not get killed with white voters, and max black turnout. If you don't get all three of these things, you're screwed. Now, the only thing preventing this from being a safe Republican is the fact that Tellerico, he has a shitload of money. He has a shitload of money. He's burning through a lot of it, but he has a lot of money. And Paxton, while he's not as weak as some people suggest, he's not this electoral juggernaut that's going to win by 25 points. But in the best case scenario, I'm going to find it very hard for him to lose. You can make the argument Texas would be safe Republican, but for argument's sake, in a best case scenario, realistically, yeah, it is probably likely Republican in a best case scenario. Now on to Ohio, and I think this is a pretty clear likely Republican. Listen, I don't see how Brown wins right now, but in a best case scenario for the GOP, how does he win? The only thing going for him is, yeah, he was the senator for like 20 years there. Okay, that's true, or 18 years. But here's the problem. He was, and he lost an election not even 2 years ago. I get it, that was a presidential year. But when you lose an election like he did, retread candidates tend to do awful the next time they run. They don't usually win. In fact, they usually do worse. Even in different environments, even in a midterm versus presidential year, these former incumbents that lose and try to run again, they don't usually do too good. Once in a while, some do break through. I get that. Before a Senate seat, that is very rare. But even if you ignore that, guys, a bunch of unions in Ohio that backed Brown 2 years ago, they now support John Husted. That's a big deal. These are groups that backed him 2 years ago. They're saying now, hey, we're good. We're going to vote for John Husted. That's a big deal. That demonstrates that, yeah, Brown might still have some strength in Ohio. Even in a best case scenario, I don't think he loses by 15 points. But guys, he's not the same candidate he was even 5 years ago. He lost in 24. When you lose as an incumbent, a lot of that incumbency advantage, it's gone. It basically vanishes overnight. So Ohio, I think, is likely Republican. Michigan, I think best case scenario, Leonard. That Democrat primary is a mess. And no matter who you pick, with how bad this could get, Mike Rogers is in a good position no matter what. If Stevens wins a primary, a lot of the progressives are going to be pissed off and they don't vote. If Stevens loses, a lot of the more moderates, they're not going to vote. You see the issue here? And they're spending all this time and money. Mike Rogers is running a good campaign, and he came very close to winning 2 years ago. This is not the same as Brown, by the way. Sherrod Brown was the incumbent. He was the incumbent for 18 years. Mike Rogers wasn't. And yet, he probably would have won if it wasn't for these bullshit third parties in Michigan, these totally conservative independents that magically took just enough votes away from Mike Rogers. So I think Michigan would be lean Republican. Maine, I'm going to say likely Republican. Again, not an official prediction, but man, that Plattner stuff is bad. And there might be stuff with Troy Jackson dropping already. It's going to be a tough hill for Democrats to climb in Maine. But if that scandal is true with Troy Jackson and the other stuff breaking also, this could get really bad in Maine. They can't pick a new candidate again. Of course, they just picked Troy Jackson, but they have only 4 to 5 months, not even 5 months, they have 4 months, if that, to try to find a way to build a new campaign from scratch, fundraise enough money, build up a new apparatus to maybe have a chance to beat Susan Collins. Collins has way more money on hand. Republicans are spending so much here. How does Troy Jackson win in the best case scenario? This will be Susan Collins' last term. but she may surprise a lot of people for how much she wins by. Maybe she does win by a narrow margin, maybe, but there's that possibility with how insane things are looking in Maine. She wins by a larger margin than people expect. Now we have New Hampshire, and this is a very fascinating race because while everyone knows John Sununu is going to be the nominee on the Republican side, and there is like a 95% chance Pappas is the Democrat nominee, here's the issue. Just like we saw in New York and Colorado, these radical nutcases in the Democrat Party, they're surging everywhere. And now there's a chance in New Hampshire that Chris Pappas, who everyone thought was untouchable, no way he can lose, he could actually lose his primary to yet another nutcase who has spent next to no money on this race. While Chris Pappas has spent millions of dollars. I think he is still going to be the nominee, but this primary might be very close and a race that he could actually lose. Again, I still think he wins, but the fact that not even 2 months ago, everyone was saying that there's no way he can lose the primary to now where, oh, he might actually lose. That's how bad things could actually get for Debs. If they actually nominate anybody but Pappas, they're going to lose New Hampshire. More than likely. You cannot run somebody that radical in New Hampshire and somebody that has next to no money, while Chris Pappas has been the one raking in millions of dollars. So, yeah, I think in a best case scenario, if they elect a nutcase, you probably end up with John Sununu as the next senator of New Hampshire. North Carolina, Leonard. I think Republicans are not favored there right now, but guys, Whatley is not as far behind as some people think. He is losing, but in a best case scenario, you have to assume that with Cooper being below 50%, he is right now, a lot of those undecideds, they lean to the right. And I think in a best case scenario, especially, Michael Whatley would end up winning. Maybe not by 5 or 6 points. He would win a very close race. But I think he would be slightly favored against Roy Cooper in a best case scenario. I just think Cooper right now, he's not polling good enough. Even now, he's polling at like 48%. Yeah, he's up by a big margin. But for a former governor that was very popular, he was there for a long time, for him not to be cracking 50% consistently, and Whatley is slowly but surely going up, and now he's actually campaigning, it's a bit worrisome for Dems. And finally, Georgia. This one, of all the races here, in a best case scenario, would be the closest. I think this would be a nail biter. I think Mike Collins right now, I don't think he's going to lose by 15 points like some people think. Though I think right now, yeah, John Ossoff, he probably wins by a decent margin. Mike Collins is going to get outspent big time, though you have to factor in outside spending, the fact that there was a very competitive primary. That's all true. But you factor in how much money Ossoff has, and it becomes very tricky to say, oh, it's going to be a lean Republican or like the ARB or whatever. But here's the thing that, again, this is a problem the Democrats, I don't think are really expecting or they're not going to be ready to handle. Black turnout. This is the one X factor in Texas especially, but even in Georgia. Georgia's another big state where black turnout, that could be a big issue for Dems. Of course, Democrats, they did nominate Bottoms for the Democrat primary. That's true. But does she have the ability to max out black turnout to the degree that Warnock or somebody else can? I don't know. I don't think so. And when it comes to Georgia, I just think John Ossoff right now, he is in a good position to win. And if we're being more realistic here, it would be very close either way. You can make the argument for tilt R or tilt D. I think right now, it probably would be tilt Democrat in a best case scenario. That could change, of course. But when you factor in everything right now, and yeah, Ossoff is clearly above 50% in multiple polls, and he has a lot of money on him, you have to assume Mike Collins, he's going to pick up some momentum. That's true. But even in best case scenario, I do think right now, John Ossoff does probably win. And I know it seems strange to have Georgia as Tilt D, but New Hampshire Tilt R. Well, there's a big difference. Right now, Mike Collins is not only getting killed in the fundraising department, again, some that will be alleviated with Republican spending. The point right now is not looking the greatest for Collins. He is down by a big margin. Ossoff is now in several polls above 50%. That's a big problem. Will that change? Probably. That's why I think it does get very close. But right now, I do have to give it to Ossoff. I do think he does barely win. Plus, with New Hampshire, even the polling against Pappas, John Sununu is not far behind Pappas. He's down by like 2 to 3 points in most polls. A couple have it over 5. But again, Pappas is not polling above 50% consistently. He's just not. And with how bad that primary could theoretically get, again, not an official prediction, I could see it happening where John Sununu, who is running a good campaign, he has that last name advantage of Sununu. He could pull it off in a best case scenario. There are different set of circumstances in New Hampshire than in Georgia. But you could flip it either way. Maybe you just say it's a toss-up. Maybe. But it goes either way. Tilt R, Tilt D, toss-up. It's one of those states that right now, not looking the best for the GOP, can and probably will change. In a best case scenario, realistically, I think we'll be down the wire. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.